Okay, you guys, so this is going to be my first how-to slash tutorial video. Um, I'm sorry for the quality. This was recorded on my iPhone and it was a weird placement, so sorry for the shadows that end up showing up. I'm also just recording on the microphone in my headphones, so if it sounds a little weird, that's why. So first I'm starting off with a square. If you have a ruler, this would be preferable because it would be the best and ideal if you can make a perfect square. I don't have a ruler, and honestly I was too lazy to look for one, so I'm just going to eyeball it here. After that square is done, you're going to draw an X in the middle, so cut it in half vertically and then cut it in half horizontally. Again, I'm just eyeballing it here. And after that, you're going to cut the top half horizontally in half as well. This is going to be a great base to know where to put Luffy's eyes. Okay, so now that the square is done, we're going to start with the chin. Luffy has a very pointy chin, so make sure you go from that top of that square all the way down to the very bottom at the center line. And both of the lines should be a bit curved because it is a face, so it's not going to be a straight line, and they meet in the middle. Okay, and now for his eyes, you're going to do two curves at the bottom. His eyes are kind of like a squished circle, so you're going to do two curves at the bottom and then again two curves at the top, except the top curves are a little bit more, I guess, curvy. Yeah, so you should do curves at the bottom, curves at the top. Next is the pupil. He is looking straight forward at us, but from a lower angle, which will come into play later. But since he is looking straight forward, his pupils will be a little bit closer to his nose, both of them looking inwards. And now I'm drawing the nose. You're going to do a little triangle on the right side. Since the light is coming from the left, the shadow will be on the right. And his eyebrows are just curves. Just draw a line. Okay, and now the infamous Luffy smile. His smile is pretty big in this drawing. So you're going to go basically from the end of one eye to the end of the other eye. It is not touch the end of his face, okay? You need to leave some skin there. And now you're not going to follow exactly where you drew the chin, but you're going to round it out a little bit more. And as you see, I change it up a little bit with my pencil. I don't erase all the marks I make because I might want to use them later, but when we refine it up with a pen, you'll be able to see better what I mean. And now we're going to divide the mouth so you can see the two rows of teeth that he has. Later, when we go on to coloring it, I'll draw in the gums, but we won't do that for right now. That'll be in a second video where I show you how I colored him. So now this you draw very, very light. Okay, I'm just making a weird shape on the top and on the side. This is going to be our basis for his hair. Okay, and I'm just filling in his pupil. But that hair baseline is going to be really important because it's showing you basically the ends of where his hair is going to be. So now that we have that, let's do his ears. His ears are going to be a little bit lower on his face because he is looking a little bit up at us. So his ears are going to be lower. You can start it at the base of where you did that hairline, basically almost on par where his mouth starts and where the division line of the teeth is. So his ears are about the size of his top row of teeth. And you make the little details inside of the ear. Okay, so now that our ears are made, it'll be easier to go through and do the neck. That way we know where to do his hat. So he does have a thin, long neck, so let's draw that. Just two curved lines, and then maybe even the neckline in the middle. Okay, So now, do you see where the box ended right there, those two lines? That's the base of his hat. You're basically going to draw a big circle around his head and make sure it goes over that hairline that we already drew. It's okay if it's not a perfect circle. Like I said, he is looking up at us, so it will turn out to be a little bit more of an oval shape than a circle. And as you guys will see later on in the video, I don't even follow this line with the pen because I, to be honest, messed up. I should have turned the paper and I didn't, and I tried to move my hand some weird way, so my fault. But you see, it's not a complete circle, but it will be ovally. And now you're getting to see more of the shape. He is looking straight at us with like an upwards angle a little bit, so his hat is tilted. We don't see the top of his hat. We're seeing the underside of the brim. And I'm just going to make my lines a bit smoother. I am trying to not move the paper, but it is hard. But you guys get the gist of how to draw an oval, so I'll try to not move the paper around. Okay. So now that the hat is done, it's time to do the hair. Luffy has hair that covers his face. So we're going to draw those two little strands first. Start it at the top of that division line in the square that we did, the vertical line. That's where you're going to draw two little pieces of hair coming out from that line, and they cross in front of the eyes on the very tip. And then you're just going to draw a couple more strands covering his face, maybe 3 or 4 pieces. And I'm going to keep on going lower and lower until I reach his ear on both sides. The pieces up towards the center of his face are a bit longer because that's where, bangs are. And then closer to the side of his face, they are going to be a bit shorter. I am drawing some pieces covering his eyes a little bit. They are a little bit ruffled. Mostly they're all going in the same direction, but he does have kind of scruffy hair. So I do give him a little bit of pieces here and there that are going in the opposite direction, but that's just Luffy's look. So now that we have framed his face, it's time to frame the underside of the hat. So we're going to start drawing the top of his head, and it's going to come in for mostly it's going to be smooth, and then you get those little pieces on the ends that do come out a little bit. They are really short, they're not bang size, so they are smaller. And we just get a couple pieces coming out of the hat from behind of his head. And it's okay if you don't draw it perfect or exactly like this. Remember, it's just hair. There could be wind, there could not be wind. It'll look different than mine. And now these are his bang pieces. So these are a little bit longer, a little bit thicker. They do stick out of the hat a bit more. I'm just drawing them. I did like 2 in one direction and the rest in the other direction. Progressively getting smaller and a bit thinner as we go down towards the ear. And give him as many pieces as you think he needs. Is his hair looking a bit more scruffy today? Is it a bit more clean? I like him a bit scruffier, so I'm going to add in a couple of pieces. And that's his hair. So now that we finished his hair, it is time to move on to the torso. After I finish cleaning up the chin, I guess. Oh, this is where I realized his head was really wide, so I tried narrowing it down a little bit. It's okay. Okay, so I am going to start with the torso. And when you start the torso, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to work on his vest. He has a red vest. It's a V-neck. And so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to connect where we ended the neck down into a V. Okay, and then after we do that, we do a general vest look. So you do the top of the vest. It's going to be like a tank top look. You cut inwards You cut inwards right there, like where you're doing the arms, where you leave the underarm. And that's his little vest. And now just make shoulders and arms. You can leave it there if you just want to work on his face, but I'm going to add a little bit more detail. He does have a vest that has a little bit of a thicker neckline, so I am going to add those. He has a bit of like ruffles, I guess, or rouging, where it bunches up a little bit. Not sure if it's exactly folded, but there you go. And now we're going to go underneath, do the division where you open up the vest and the button. And the technique with doing this is you need to add ruffles or like little lines underneath the button and on the other side of the button, so it really looks like the button is under tension of the vest. And I am going to draw his shoulders. You need to do like a little bump for the shoulder because everybody has that, and then an indent inwards, and then a little bump for the arm where the bicep and tricep are. So you need to be able to differentiate. Okay. And now that we finished with the torso, we're going to do some last minute little details. By that I mean adding the little lines on Luffy's very famous straw hat. It wouldn't be the Straw Hat Pirates if they did not have a straw hat. The only way to make it look more like it's been worn out, it's older, it is made out of straw and not just one material, is to add these little lines. And basically done. You can leave it there. If you just wanted to do a simple sketch, I am going to go over it in a marker type pen. I'm using Prismacolor Premier illustration markers. This one is in the size 08, and I'm just going to go over the entire drawing. I'm pretty sure you guys don't need to see how I do this or hear a description exactly of what I'm doing, but you basically go over it, make your definitive lines. After this, you cannot erase this marker or this pen, so just make sure that you are following the lines that you really think that you need. As you can see, it is getting a lot more defined. And it's okay if you mess up and you don't follow your sketch line perfectly. That happens to me when I start doing the hat, so you guys will end up seeing that later. I'll just fast forward through most of this. I guess you guys don't really need to see me go through outlining everything, so I'll just fast forward a little bit and then I'll jump back on when I need to tell you guys something. So as you guys can see here, I do kind of get off of the line a little bit on his hat. I am not worrying too much about it. Like I said, his hat is old, so it might just be a little bent. We don't need to tell everybody that it's a mistake. I'm pretty sure even after it's colored, people won't really notice that much. But yeah, and I don't even put the lines of the hat in the same place as where I drew the lines with pencil. It pretty much is just kind of free, do whatever you want. So yeah. Okay, and then here, I also wanted to mention I did realize that I think I made one side wider than the other. So I do go about a centimeter or two past my pencil line on this left side. Um, I go over on the vest and I go over a lot on the shoulder as well, which you'll be able to see right here. Yeah, so I went over and I think it looks fine. It'll eventually go away with the eraser, so it doesn't matter. And I am going over all of my last minute details, and then after that it'll just get down to the erasing part. Okay, so I am basically done with the drawing. All that's left to do is erase. I suggest maybe a charcoal eraser. Those are those like gray ones that you can mold, or a white eraser. Just make sure that you test the eraser out on another piece of paper before you start erasing on this, because if it's an older eraser, it might smudge. You also want to make sure that the ink is fully dry, because if you start erasing when the ink is still wet, you will smudge. Um, that's why I suggest using maybe like a felt tip, a Sharpie. Those fine tip Sharpies are like the best. Um, I don't suggest using a ballpoint just because those don't actually really dry. They kind of just sit on the paper and they will almost always smudge. Um, so yeah, all that's left to do is erase all of the little pencils and get it ready for coloring if that's what you want to do, which will be in my next video. Okay, so we are basically done. All that's left to do is assign it, and you're good to go. Thank you for watching.